Please just stay in your practice while standing in your cushion.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Buddhist Temple of Toledo. Please go ahead and sit for liturgy, and we'll start on page 2. If you need a book, it's under your cushion. Gata of atonement, all evil karma ever committed by me since of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. Nikaya 3 Refuges. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Sangha. The 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. Mahayana Refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. Invocation of the Lineage. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers, for the lineage of teachers before them. I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and awakened awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened, and may their vows be completely realized. 7 practices of the Bodhisattva. I bow down in body, speech, and mind. I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit for the sake of all beings, generating love and compassion. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred, being close to some and distant from others. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this. Our reading today is from Camus. I shall tell you a great secret, my friend. Do not wait for the last judgment. It takes place every day. Please stand for the Heart Sutra. Pray Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva practicing deep Prajna Paramita clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form, sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are essentially empty, not born, not destroyed, not safe, not pure, without loss, without gain. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no seeing, and so on, to no thinking, no ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance, and so on, to no old age and death, and also no ending of old age and death, no suffering, cause of suffering, cessation, path, no wisdom, and no attainment, since there is nothing to attain of. Bodhisattva lives by Prajnaparamita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, and therefore no fear, far beyond delusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. All Buddhas, both past, present, and future, live by Prajnaparamita, attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great sacred mantra, the great vivid mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not mere formality. Therefore set forth the Prajnaparamita mantra, set forth this mantra, and proclaim Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parsam, Gate, Bodhisattva, Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parsam, Gate, Bodhisattva, Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parsam, Gate, Bodhisattva. Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. All that is and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We offer this sincere and devoted practice for the many beings of the 6 worlds, and dedicated in grateful thanks to the strength and sound practice of the great Heartland Sangha and its teachers. May our virtuous actions be clear from all interferences, and may our vows be fully realized. We especially dedicate these merits to Doan Sensei. May the Sangha give you the best we have to give, both real and imagined. May your years of life be lengthened, and may your vows be fully realized, as well as Kensei and Kevin at the time of their illness, and Paulette at the time of her death. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. Please prepare for Zazen.
receive it, or don't receive it because we're conviction.
The Sangha Covenant. We, the Daishin Kokaji Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with the wonder at the compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts of doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others.
Please be seated.
Gatan, opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Please sit comfortably. For your entertainment. Try to find the logical push. I found it. So, it's so good to be here. It's so good to be here with you all. I am flabbergasted first by just the wonderfulness of a Midwestern Zen temple. I love the mission flourishes here and there, which I've often thought was Western Zen. Yeah, and thank you, and more than that, as wonderful as it is, it's the community. And before that, yesterday, my favorite part was the children. Yeah, I'm only aware of one other community that is really trying to embrace family Dharma, and that's the Brooklyn Zen Center. And at least their graphics are good. One of my favorite images of all times for Zen in the West is it's a row of Zapus and Zabutons, and I forget, there's 2 or 3 humans sitting facing the wall in the classic Soto style, and then there's an empty Zafu Zabuton, and then there's like 2 or 3 children playing on the other Zafus and Zabutons. I believe you're going to have that happen here. And I really, really think it's important. And I'll go into a little bit of that as we spend some time here. So Rinson said, James, you're going to be speaking. And I said, oh, okay, great. How about I play off of, and this is where I, because I have notes, I can say, Blue Cliff 24, Book of Serenity 60. Otherwise, what I really said was that one about Iron Grinder Lou. And he said, yeah, that's great. We've really been unpacking that together in our in one of our classes. And I said, oh, okay. Well, then maybe I should let it go, and I, can come up with something else. He said, nah, just play with it. And I really wanted to. And I think it really is something that's nice to begin one of the early Dharma talks here in the temple. Let's see if I might be able to do this without my notes, without my glasses. So Liu Timo came to Guishan. Timo apparently is the nickname. It means iron grinder. So she's iron grinder Liu. She went to Guishan, who is her teacher. She's one of his Dharma successors. And he says, "Old cow, so you have come." So, there's something there's several layers here. But he is also known, his nickname is Water Buffalo. So there is this other thing that's kind of going on at the same time, along with all the insults and things that Zen people just love to do. TMO Iron Grinder said, tomorrow there's a great festival at Taishan, and will you be going? Guishan lay down and stretched himself out. TMO went away. That's it. There's so many echoes here. There's so many things that we could pick at and play with and unravel and look for that informs our own personal intimate practices, as well as what does it mean to be a spiritual community, which for us here especially, that's such an integral part of the way. That's part of what I love about the case, is its emphasis on ordinary life. Hi, you want to come to the festival, and then that kind of interesting sprawling on the ground, and then that going away. Two really interesting things that speak actually to what we're doing here. The intimacy of the way, the ordinariness of this, the laying down, the going into the kitchen and heating up yesterday's feast for I think an even better version of that Indian delight that we had. All of this is these are expressions of the sacredness of the ordinary, and I think it's just really important. and in our own particular way, as you know, in this emerging Western community, out of the, you know, there's been Western Zen for a very long time. It's mainly been within a handful of temples that have primarily been concerned with serving Japanese and Vietnamese and Chinese communities in their cultural spiritual needs, which are enormously important and valuable, but also something of a barrier for a lot of converts. And so, you know, so it was kind of isolated until the 1950s when a handful of Eastern missionaries came here and targeted specifically the convert community. And ever since then, it's just been, we've been looking at how to adapt the ancient traditions into our own culture and allowing us to grow wise, grow deep, to live our lives and to die in the goodness of time. One of the really interesting things triggered for me in Doan's Denbo transmission. And that is that our you know, ordination line comes to us through Hon Jiu Kinnet, who is an English priest who went to Japan, English person went to Japan, ordained as a priest, practiced, came back, ordained me, and the line just keeps coming back in. What's kind of intriguing about her as a forerunner for us as a paradigm was that women teachers. You know, we in East Asia, there are very few koans that have women featuring in them, and those that do usually don't have a name. You know, it's an anonymous tea server who kicks some monk's butt, and then he inevitably says, "Oh, right. Is there a good teacher around here somewhere?" Yes, and she usually, you know, shuns them off to one of her disciples. Here we have, you know, a real, you know, a person, and we'll talk a little bit about her. But first, that lineage thing. One of the interesting things that's emerged in Zen in the West has been an opening of the way and its leadership to women. My informal survey of the Zen teachers in the West suggests that half of our teachers are women. And frequently offering, you know, occupying really important roles in the public space of Zen. With that, we've also, you know, as we've begun to to look at ourselves and to look at each other, we realized that opened our eyes to a lot of gender issues, and LGBTQ is pretty closely to fully integrated within Zen communities across the continent and in Europe. We're not so good with people of color. There is an aspiration, but I'm even watching an African American lineage kind of emerging where people are practicing with each other in supportive communities, and I think probably for us, while we want to look at being clearly inviting as we go forward, probably we need to look at how do we support people in their, you know, in their various practices. Part of our ordinary Zen way, the practices of actual daily life. So Iron Grinder Liu is, I think, a patron for us in that regard. So I looked it up. I actually found somebody that pretended to have dates for her, 780 to 859. And what we actually have very few hard data points on it, but definitely somewhere from the end of the 8th century, and she, you know, flourished into the 9th, somewhere along that line. Her anchor point is the little better documented her teacher, Guishan, who himself is a Dharma heir of Baizhang, of the golden mouth, and who actually his name is attached to the formulation of the first monastic rules for Zen people that depart from the Vinaya codes of Asia. So really very much in the mainstream of what Zen is going to be. What we know, or what we think we know, is that she came from a peasant family. Somewhere along the line, she began wandering, eventually ordained as a nun, and after working with a couple of teachers, found Guishan, and would eventually become his Dharma heir. This case is collected in two anthologies of koans. There's another story about her that's kind of intriguing, that it's not anthologized in the collections, but it's collected in the sayings of another teacher, in which she goes to visit him, and he makes some statement, and she says, you shouldn't move to left and to right, which means don't wobble. For which she is remembered as being chased out of the hall. She, in my notes here, she's called Iron Grinder because she ground to bits pretty much anyone who dared to challenge her in debate. It was said that she was as sharp as a stone struck. She was sharp as a stone-struck spark. So all sorts of people do comments on her and talk about what this dialogue could be. Haku and Ikaku, our Koan ancestor, had a couple of comments, and let me just try to look at them, which I thought was, first off, he lets us, reminds us this is not a non sequitur. This is a meeting of adepts. This is a pointer for us, and says that this is a space where there are no more views of Buddhas, no more opinions about the Dharma. Hi, are you coming to the festival? A critical step in there was, you've come, from Guishan. And Hakuin tells us, no guest, no host, you've come. It echoes for me what has become so much a part of my practice in the last few years. Come closer, come closer. Now, of course, you have to be wary because some people have sticks, but what we're really being called into is intimacy, heart to heart, presence to presence, and you've come. A declaration of intimacy. And as Hakuin said, like two mirrors reflecting each other. The aspiration of our way, the invitation of our practice. Are you going to come? Are you going to the festival? Again, Hakuin says, they're traveling together. They don't even leave a trail. They're just just present. And then Guishan lays out, no one, as Hakuin says, no one knows the point of the meeting of Guishan and the iron grindstone. And this doesn't mean that we're clueless about this. It means that we've stepped out of the realms of right and wrong, high and low. We have to return to them. But right now, right then, in this moment, in that moment, just this, what we're always called into, whatever the situation of our lives might be. So I want to talk a little bit about I want to hit pause on that, and be very cleverly come back to the thing later, what will only look like a non sequitur. What I like particularly about her as a nun is that she also embodies the the alternative possibilities to the masculine monastic life that is the archetype of so much of Zen. With people who do martial arts and all this stuff that is interesting, but what is the actual awakened life? What is it that means that we spend time coming here and throwing ourselves on the pillow? Why do we struggle? The problem with community is there's all these people in it. And what about that? Where do we go? You here speak to an amazing possibility, a vision of the way for Zen here in the West. And it has two sanghas that overlap. In some ways they're always one, of course, but there's what I would say is the traditional inheritance of Zen in the West, and that's retreat driven. That's our compromise with the monastic training. We throw ourselves in for brief but very intense periods of time, and that continues, and it's really important. If you can do it, please do. And at the same time, there's this temple sangha. There are the children. There are pregnant people. There are folk who are living fully in the world, and a monastery is the furthest thing from even aspiration. It's just doing it here, doing it together, and what you're doing is an expression of the Dharma that is crying out. You are creating like I said, maybe Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn. Others kind of tip their hat. They occasionally think of doing something for kids. Usually it's a festival. A few have been better. Dharma Rain has done a pretty good job. I'm kind of coming to the end of the list. We're at the dawn of a new age, and I think Zen without children is not going to make it. And that would be too bad, because Zen offers a great deal. But Zen with children is Zen in a town, with marathoners and trains, and I love your juxtaposition here. You're right in nature, and yet you're really in the city. And there we are. We're practicing an ancient tradition, and we're very much in our families, among our families together. That and it's just an aside on all of that. It's part of the ordination model here. It's the formation is not monastic life. The formation is that it includes that intensive meditation, which is totally authentic. But you're creating the ministers of the way, people who will serve and step into the roles that need to be. For a second, I thought I was being cued to wind it up. But yes, absolutely. But maybe I should come back to the koan. So I've got a quote from Enkyo Ohara, one of my favorite Zen teachers. She's the teacher of the village Zendo, and I know a couple of us have encounters with her. One of those Zen teachers, of the female persuasion, who have become one of the really important luminous figures of our generation. She speaks of this koan, and she calls it satisfyingly complete and heartbreakingly intimate. The invitation here for us is to something that on first glance might be missed. In the Blue Cliff record, K6, Yun Min says to his assembly, I don't ask you about before the 15th of the month. Try to say something about after the 15th. Yunmin himself answered for everyone, and he said, every day is a good day. Now, this koan is so filled with traps and difficulty that often when people receive Dharma transmission, the first talk they give is on this case. What is a good day? In his community, they were in the middle of, what is it called, the 10 somethings and the bad, awful things. And half his community died, in a 10-year period. This is, so every day is a good day is not, don't worry, be happy. There's something we're being invited into, and what we're being invited into is hinted at in the front part. The 15th of the month is not actually an obscure reference. It's the full moon, and it's a common trope in East Asia, Asian Buddhism, to speak to awakening. So I'm not talking about the really critical and important things that take us toward our awakening. What about awakening itself? And I think we're finding ourselves in our ordinary lives, in this ordinary practice, in this gathering of dragons and snakes. Usually we seem to share parts of both. We are come, as the line there is, you've come. We are already here. This is the lotus land. This is the pure land. This is heaven. It comes along with hells, of course. There are those other people. But that's where are you going? Here. We're coming here to be with the other people, to realize, oh, I am the other people. And the Buddha, and the glory of God, the whole wonderful thing. Today happens to be Orthodox Easter for those who are interested in such things, and I love that there's kind of a repeat for the Christian community of the signal event of that communion, and it triggered for me, and we found for that lead line that we began our gathering today with from Albert Camus. I shall tell you a great secret, my friend. Do not wait for the last judgment. It takes place every day. I want to say, my friends, do not wait for death and resurrection. It's happening. It's happened. It's happening. It will happen here. Now, the way we've set this up, my understanding is I was supposed to prattle on for a few minutes, and they're bringing Ed in to correct all my errors and set you straight.
You have to go like this. I have to go like this.
Put this away.
Is it still morning? Or is it the afternoon? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I do a Dharma talk most mornings. It starts at 7 o'clock in California, and there's people on from the East Coast, from Michigan, and from the East Coast, and there's people on from Europe, and there's one or two people on from Singapore and Thailand. So I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And then I say, every day is a good day to die. I got that from the Lakota Sioux, actually. But it's about the same as every day is a good day. So a bit of a disclaimer, or what do you call those things? True revelation, or true, Well, just to say something about my way. I grew up in the Soto tradition with Suzuki Roshi. I got to Zen Center in 1965, And he died in 1971, and shortly before he died, 3 months, I was among the last group of his disciples. So I feel very fortunate for that. And in this tradition, we study the Koan, what's called the Koan of everyday life. So an example of this is one evening, so at the end of the Suzuki Roshi was about to leave the Zendo after Zazen, and he said, "Life is basically impossible. Good night." So we had a bit of a koan. And finally, the next day, that he was giving a lecture, and after the lecture, there was, "Anybody have a question?" "Oh, Roshi, last night you said that life was basically impossible. What are we going to do?" And he said, "You're doing it every day." So I was inspired by the lecture, to mention a very, one of our supreme woman teachers, Pema Chodron. Sounds true, the Lions Roar, various people got together and they had a summit, a 5-day summit of timeless teachings in honor of Pema Chodron. And all these amazing people, Mingyur Rinpoche and Dzogchen Rinpoche and Zen teachers and people came on, and everybody had stories about Pema Chodron. And one of the stories that Tammy Simon, who's the founder of Sounds True, had was one of her favorite Pema Chodron teachings was that, the bad news is you're falling out of an airplane and you don't have a parachute and you have no idea what to do. And nothing is there to stop your fall. The good news is there's no ground. So this koan of everyday life, one of the ways it's presented, Suzuki Roshi used to say, "What is your inmost request?" And this is related, of course, to the story of Yento and Ganto and Seppo. I forget the Chinese name, Japanese name. Anyway, and they were snowed in. They had been hiking, and it was snowing, and they got to a hut, and there was a stove, and they could sleep on top of the stove. And Yento right away curled up and went to sleep. And Seppo, "I'm going to practice." Because I haven't gotten to the bottom of this yet. And every so often Yento would wake up and he'd put some more wood on the fire and go back to sleep. And finally he says to his friend, they'd been friends for years and years, and they were very different, and Ganto was more happy-go-lucky, and Seppo was he persevered, he kept at it. And they were, so finally, you probably know the story, but Ganto wakes up and he says, "Really, you get some rest. We're going to be hiking again." "No, my heart is still not at ease." And Ganto says, "So tell me about all the things you've studied and all the things you've heard and the teachings you've received." And so Seppo tells him. And finally, Ganto says, "Very good. I can see you've studied a lot. But all those teachings are just coming in the side door. The real teaching comes out of your heart." And Seppo's heart suddenly exploded with this teaching of the true teaching right from his heart. What's in your heart? What is your inmost request? And of course, in this lineage, John Tarrant's book, Bring Me the Rhinoceros, he has a wonderful, chapter about this koan, about the true teaching coming from your heart. And it's so hard. I mean, there's all these things, all these teachings out there. And of course, finally, it's what speaks to you and what do you have to say? So I've been in this tradition, and I'd like to share a little bit about what I've come to, which has nothing much to do with you, but just to give you a few tales for what they're worth or not worth. And you can take them or leave them and toss them aside or pick them up as you wish. But I was in college, and I took social psychology, and we were to write a paper on alienation and anxiety. What is that, and what are the causes, and how do you get over it? I got an A, and I felt as alien and anxious as before I'd started studying anything about alienation and anxiety, and I felt just as anxious and just as alienated. Thank you very much. So I thought, this is not the way. What is the way? And then my brother was sending me Zen stories from Paul Repp's book, Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. A young man writes home to his mom, I'm doing really well in school. I'm writing great papers. I get good grades on them. I help the other students study. And his mom writes back and says, dear son, I didn't raise you to be a walking dictionary. Why don't you go to the mountains and attain true realization? And that spoke to me. So the end of the school year came. I was, by the way, going to a college locally, here in Ohio, Antioch, Yellow Springs, Ohio. And so the end of the school year came, and I signed the papers. I'm dropping out, and it said reasons for leaving. Well, duh, I'm going to the mountains to attain true realization. Is that complicated? Why else would you leave school? I mean, that's obvious. You got to get out of this place and, find your own heart and go your own way. And then 2 years later, I was at Tassajara in the mountains. This is mysterious. It's as mysterious as here we are with this amazing building and all of you studying and practicing, and teachers and lineage and sangha. So it's pretty amazing. I want to fast forward here, though. In the middle of that somewhere, I was like, every day is a good day to die, because that's monastic practice for you. You do it anyway, whether it seems to be of benefit or not. Because I went through all those things like. The famous story is, anyway, I'll tell you what happened first. But, the wake-up bell comes, ding, 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 ding. Oh, shit, I have to get up. And then you get up, and then, I have to go to the bathroom. I have to wash my face. Oh, I have to get these robes on. Oh, now I have to go to meditation. Oh, damn. Every day is a day full of excrement. And, of course, the story is that life goes on like this. And then you get to the baths later in the afternoon, and you realize there's this piece of shit right on your upper lip. So, of course, everything stinks. And the answer to that is go, and Katagiri Roshi, one sesshin, when there's this question and answer, every answer is go wash your face. And then what? Go wash your face again. Anyway, fasting, so skipping through a whole lot of, excrement stories. Eventually, one thing leads to another if you live long enough. And after I got to Zen, I'd gone to the mountains to attain true realization. And then 10 years later, I was president, chairman of the board, and head resident teacher of the San Francisco City Center, but it's a $4 million a year corporation. When I got there, it was, the budget was $500 a month. But, and that's not what I started spiritual practice for. But, you do what people ask and whatever. Anyway, I promised to fast forward. So then in 1984, auspicious year, right? I was invited to be the head resident teacher at the Tassajara Zen Mountain Center. Various circumstances. I've been assured that that will never happen again. And so it was 1984, I had started sitting in 1965. And no, we're not getting to the true realization. Or maybe this is the true realization. Which is which and what's what? What do we know? But one morning I came in and it's very formal and everybody's sitting because and the Han goes down and the last beats of the Han, step, step, bow, bop, 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 right at the bowing mat. And then offering incense and doing a jindo and walking around. And then you get back and there's bells and I get back to my seat, bow to the seat, bow away from the seat, sit down. And I thought, what will I work on today? Compassion, generosity, concentration, wisdom. Well, what will it be today that will, advance me in my practice for the benefit of all beings? And a little voice said, why don't you touch what's inside with some warmth and kindness? And before I could even say, oh, okay, the tears are just flooding down my face and my okesa was getting wet. I'd agreed without even thinking, something, the koan of everyday life popped. And one thing led to another, and then I decided to leave the Zen Center with more tears, and I figured I needed a place to cry. Anyway, is that true realization or is that off the path, on the path? And it's very hard to tell. So then I started, I got out in the world and I moved to a cabin in the woods from having all those people around to a cabin in the woods. And I felt completely at home. And part of it was I had these amazing neighbors, a man named J.B. Blanc and a woman named Christine. His wife was Christine Nielsen. And he was a wood sculptor, a ceramicist, and then he carved stones. An extraordinary person from Oklahoma. And he'd been in the Korean War, and at the end of when he got time to get out of the war, he said, let me out in Japan. And they said, oh, you have to fly back to the States. And he found someone who said, oh, okay, we'll make that happen. And he studied pottery in Japan in the 50s. And so on. Anyway, they were my neighbors, and I was working on cookbooks. So a lot of days I would cook something, and then I'd call them up. Are you ready for, spinach, cheese and spinach pie, and such salad? And they'd say, okay, we'll supply the wine. Anyway, so I had a home. And I realized one of the things that for some of us, but for most of us, and you have it here. It's lovely, a home. It's not just, it's a place to practice Zen, but it's also, as we were saying, with kids and everything, and Sangha here, it's a home. It's a home. And of course, there's always strange relatives around. You should know, but But with enough practice, you realize it's not them, as we've heard, it's oh. Anyway, there's so much to talk about, but I want to just say for a few things. So this koan of everyday life, I've been studying what is my inmost request. And of course, you want to keep updating. What is my inmost request? And curiously enough, you see at Tassajara, you don't have much connection and intimacy. I mean, in one way, you sit together, and it's so tender and intimate in Zazen, or not. But we get to know each other, body to body, in this space. But then on the other hand, and what's also another wonderful thing here, you all, there's so much conversation and talking with each other. And for various reasons, there's not much of that. There's not nearly enough of it, in the Zen Center where I grew up. And partly that was me, of course, because I heard that talking was frivolous. You should do your practice. And I didn't want to, I wanted to say only the most profound things. So if you want to say only the most profound things, what happens is people wonder why you're not saying anything. And then they think you're not saying anything because if you opened your mouth, you'd be saying something bad about them. So they assume that I didn't like them, which is probably true. But so I started learning. So after 20 years at the Zen Center, I started learning how to say, "Good morning, how are you?" And I'm this kind of person where I had to learn how to have ordinary conversations. So that became important. And at one point, it became important to smile and to laugh. It's my inmost request. Nobody tells you, you need to laugh more. Okay? And, and I read, so you keep coming, these things strike you. And you say, oh, okay. I read years ago the quote by Long Chengpa, one of the Tibetan founders, and he said, "Given that life is so uncertain and impossible, and you don't know, as we all know, even though we know we're going to die, we don't know when, and it's so uncertain and terrible things can happen in our life. And there's nothing you can do about it, you might just as well burst out laughing." Or, one of my teachers was Stephen Levine, Noah's dad, and he started the hospice movement. He helped hundreds of people die before there were hospices, and he used to say, when people tell me that they have their shit together, it looks to me like they're standing in it. And then another wonderful one, if we all shared with each other our deepest, darkest, worst secrets, we would laugh uproariously at our lack of originality. Anyway. So, in the tradition I'm in, there's a wonderful interplay between what is your inmost request and these koans, which sometimes, I could study that. That's my inmost request, to pick up that one. But then you're not reporting to your teacher, you're just, it's for yourself more. And you can talk about it with your teacher if you were moved to do so. So another of my inmost requests is, I found myself loving poetry. And certain poetry more than others. Oh, and I just remembered one of my favorite poets is a man named William Stafford. And he lived in Portland and taught at the university there. He was a conscientious objector in the Second World War, even though that was such a heroic, good war, one of the last. Anyway, and he started a practice of writing a poem every day. I'll tell you two of his poems to end, so I can stop talking with some of William Stafford's poetry. One is, it could happen anytime. Earthquake, tornado, Armageddon. It could, Or sunshine, love, salvation. It could happen. That's why we wake up and look out. There are no guarantees in this life. That's why we wake up and look out. But there are some blessings, like morning, like noon, like evening, like right now. Anyway, speaking of going to the mountains and finding William Stafford, then one of my favorite William Stafford's poems, so he's had a practice of writing a poem every day. And he was, probably his most famous line is, an interviewer came to talk to him and said, I hear you write a poem every day. How can you do that? How can you be inspired and creative and have a poem every day? And he said, I lower my standards.
And with that,
I'm gonna close with one more poem. So this is another William Stafford poem. Sometimes, from sorrow, for no reason, you sing. Sometimes from sorrow, for no reason, you sing. For no reason, you accept the way of being lost and cutting loose from all else. The poem is called Cutting Loose, so it's better not to leave out that line. You accept the way of being lost, cutting loose from all else, and electing a world where you go where you want to. And electing a world where you go where you want to. Arbitrary sound comes, reminding that a steady center holds all else. Listening to it, you know where you are, and you can slide your way past trouble. Certain twisted monsters always bar the path, but that's when you get going best, glad to be lost. Remembering how real it is here on earth over and over again.
We'll do the 4 vows. We're singing them, or we're chanting them. Dawn?
Eno's choice.
Eno's choice. Okay. Well, just for Shokai, we'll sing them. I vow to wait.
time, I would like to have an appreciatory 3 bows, please, to our visiting guest teachers. And please, Young Roshi, would you stand there? 3 full bows, please. Thank you both so much.
We used to call that sometimes the drive-by show.
Thanks everybody for coming today. I have a quick announcement. We are in the process of re-energizing Dharma School, yay! So we are looking forward to offering programming that provides practice and exploration of Buddhist practices and concepts. Participants will explore various mindfulness practices, including meditation and walking meditation. Please visit the info table before you leave. There's like a trifold thing. And there's also a list on the entry table where if you are interested, please write your name down so that we know to touch base with you. And also any Sangha members that are interested in teaching or assisting, please let us know. And you can also write that on that sheet also, because Dharma School takes lots of helping hands for sure. Are there any other?
Yep, so registration is now open for May Sesshin. Please register. We've had growing attendance over the last several Sesshin. If you've never done before, please connect with Zuise, and she can have a conversation with you about what that entails. We also have food today, plenty of leftovers, so the food has been warm. Thank you, Liz and Kinko. Please grab a big old plate, and we did not have the foresight to invite you to bring Ziploc containers, but there is so much left, I don't think we'll eat it all. If you can come back later today, you want to come back, I think there are people still staying here. You can dip into the refrigerator and get what you need. I know that'll be helpful for some folks. Thank you.
And Chokin students, you probably saw in your email, I hope, that we are back to counting Sesshin days, including this year. You'll need 7 days through the rest of the year, so please make sure you get them in.
I did bring a bag of containers. They're by the Sangha refrigerator, and they're just, you can take them, they'll be yours when you leave, and just use them till they're gone. Also, there was a sign-in, like, fingerprint tree for the event yesterday, and if you didn't get to sign in, or if you're here today and you were here in spirit yesterday, please put your thumbprint on that. We're going to hang it in the temple as a remembrance of the day. It's in the corner. Please don't take any drinks or get smudges on it if you can. And there are commemorative mugs if you left yours here, or if you want to get one and you weren't here, they'll be by the door on your way out, and please take one. And thank you everyone for all of your help.
Perhaps finally, we'll see. We are in the middle of Ango, our season of intensive practice, and that means 2 things. Next Saturday, we have a workshop with a visiting teacher. He'll be visiting by Zoom. Another person who was trained by Mahayana Roshi. I'm so hot that his name is eluding me right now. Help me out. Dosho Port Roshi. Fantastic. So Saturday, hybrid, you can be here or on Zoom. We hope everyone will join us. Please sign up. There's a registration form you can find on the webpage and in your email. And it being Ango also means that Dokusan is being offered on Wednesday nights and Thursday mornings, so come to temple, practice, and let's live our ordinary lives together.
One more?
Question. Okay.
Isan, did you have an announcement?
Announcement?
I've got 20 ginkgo trees out on the sidewalk that need new homes. I've named them all, but you can change their names if you want. They've been watered last night, but they need to get in the ground really soon, okay? Enjoy.
Please restore the Zendo.